I rolled background for this revenge and I was concerned. Besides not having a lot of practice drawing them, I was also worried about my ability to come up with ideas for scenes. Luckily for me, one of their characters, Ray, featured a reference depicting him in a scene. It looked to be a store, but his profile didn't specify what kind, so I took a lot of creative liberties when expanding the interior. I went with the angle that it was an indie media store that sold books, games, music, movies, and even some secondhand clothes. I collected a few references of real-life store interiors, as well as an illustration by Coconut and Manny.oe. I don't know about my pronunciation for that one, but both on Instagram, with the vibe I vaguely want to replicate. You might have also noticed that I had a bunch of other character references besides Ray, which is because I felt like it would be more interesting if I populated the space a little. So I picked out 4 more characters from other art YouTubers. Grimm's character Mercedes, Maddie's character Farah, Snowbird's character Erin, and Jade's character Fiona. I managed to pick characters who happen to have some overlapping interests, so in my piece, I wanted Ray and Erin to be talking about music, with Mercedes listening in, while Farah and Fiona talked about sewing or designing outfits/costumes somewhere else in the store. To avoid feeling overwhelmed, I tackled every step of this illustration in steps. I started by figuring out the layout of the store's interior from a top-down perspective, like a floor plan. Then I took that floor plan and tried to draw it in an isometric perspective so I could get a better sense of the scale of everything in the room. Only then did I actually start sketching for the illustration itself, starting from a thumbnail that I later scaled up to act as guidelines for a more detailed sketch. Rather than line out everything on a single layer as is usually my process, I treated the foreground, midground, and background like separate pieces, which also facilitated the process of coloring later down the line. I didn't think too hard on the flats, which I think ended up being to my detriment. I just color picked directly from the reference whenever I could and eyeballed the rest. I could have done a better job at conveying a specific atmosphere if I had been more intentional with the colors. This problem then gets exacerbated in the shading. I tried to keep things simple, using multiply and overlay layers to shade, but things just got really muddy. I tried using gradient maps to add more vibrancy to the image, but it just wasn't working. I ended up pulling everything back and using exclusively the overlay layer to shade, so that everything would stay vibrant and nothing would get too dark. I won't lie and say that I'm 100% satisfied with the result, but I learned a lot from this piece and it made me more willing to tackle interior pieces in the future.